Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Presidential Address for Week 14. I'm Lawrence Presman, and if you've never watched the show, I'm going to take apart every single game on Sunday and give you guys a bet on almost all of them. Let's start right off the bat with Atlanta going into Minnesota. Atlanta here is +5. The total in this game, 45.5 points. And let's start right off the bat with what is going on in Falcons land? Not only have they lost 3 straight games, but they are playing a horrible football. Kirk Cousins just threw 4 interceptions against the Chargers, and they put up 13 whole points. The game before that, Cousins threw 173 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and now Kirk Cousins has not scored a touchdown in 3 straight games. He does have 6 interceptions, though, for an average of 2 per game. As for this Minnesota team, good teams find ways to win games even if they play badly, and that's exactly what they did last week against Arizona. They were outplayed by Arizona start to finish and needed a miracle fourth quarter to pull that out, but they did, and that's exactly what good teams do. And let's be honest here, I don't think Minnesota could lose another game this year if they're going to hunt down the Lions. The Lions are not only ahead of them by 1 game in the division, but they're ahead of them by 1 game for home field for the entire playoffs. So Minnesota needs to keep pace with Detroit, and they need to win games. So what do? Kirk Cousins returning to Minnesota. How do we bet this game? Well, we start by taking every single thing I've said so far and throwing it into the garbage. We are going to bet against Minnesota here and on the Falcons at +5. First off, this could be one of those just shitty 3-game stretches. Every team does them. Last year, we had San Francisco get all the way to the Super Bowl. What happened? They lost 3 bad games in a row during the regular season. Same thing happened before. So we could just look at this Atlanta 3-game series as one of those moments in time. But let's be honest here. The Falcons aren't San Fran from last year. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contending team. And it's likely, although they're not nearly as bad as their 0-3 in the last 3 suggests, it's likely they're not as good as their 4-0 run they had prior to that. One thing we know is that Kirk Cousins has saved his touchdowns for this game. If you flip a coin 50 times in a row and it lands on heads all 50 times, after 1,000 coin tosses, it's still 50-50. In other words, everything comes back to the means. Kirk Cousins is not going to throw 6 interceptions and have 0 touchdowns in the next 3 games. I actually think this is going to be the best game of the season for him. He's indoors. He's on a field that he knows. He's at home in a place where he has lived the last 5 years. And he really wants to stick it to this Vikings team. And I also think the entire Atlanta Falcons team rallies around him and gets him there. Not only that, but Atlanta is now tied 6-6 with Tampa Bay for the division lead, although they do have the tiebreaker. And this Atlanta team is desperate to turn their season around. We look at the situation here and we say, okay, the marketplace, they are overvaluing Minnie. I get it. Minnie has won 5 in a row, 9 of 11. They look good on the win column. But like the KC Chiefs, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. They're playing bad teams. They're playing teams with inconsistent offenses, and they're getting it done at the last minute. This Minnesota team is right for an upset, and I think it could happen this week. Not only do I like Atlanta +5, I think Atlanta can win this game outright on the money line. So take Atlanta +5. Now, before we get in to the rest of the games, I want to thank you guys for watching these videos. Thank you for all the comments. Hundreds and hundreds of you are commenting on a regular basis. I read every single one of them, and I do respond to most. I appreciate all the thumbs up that you guys give me on the like button. Please keep that up, and I appreciate you guys subscribing to our channel at WagerTalk WagerTalk.tv. 187,000 of you have already subscribed. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I also have a great promo to give out to you guys. I have a 5% play in college football this Saturday. This is my first college football 5% total of the entire season. I am 69% on the year in college football totals, and I'm also seeing college football really well right now. I'm on a 7-3 run. I just had a 3-1 Saturday. I'm on a 19-9 run. I'm over 60% since the beginning of October. This is my favorite college football play. But forget about all of that. We have a bowl promo package up for you guys. I am the second most profitable handicapper at WagerTalk during bowl seasons over the last 2 years. It is only $149, and you get my entire rest of the college football all the way through to the national championship game. It's a steal, guys. My 5% play alone is going to cost $35. This is a great package. It's $149. I'm seeing college football so well. I've killed it in the bowls. Please head over to WagerTalk.com. Check out my page, wt.buzz/LP, and get that $149 package. Okay, New Orleans and the New York Giants. So I was wrong about New Orleans last week. Frankly, last week was not a good week. It was my worst week of the year, which is really bodes well for this week because as we were talking about at the beginning of the show, everything always comes back to the means. I'm one of the best NFL betting experts. I have been for about 35 years. And I mean one of the best in the world. If I have a really, really bad week like I did last week, probably a great time to bet my plays. So with that said, I was wrong with New Orleans last week, but I was right with Dallas. We had the Saints last week, and my God, did they let us down. They had the game in hand. They allowed the Rams to score 14 points on them in the last quarter and really take away that stupid flag that they caused on themselves. It took off a touchdown. This New Orleans team really had the game well in hand. What do we do in this game? Both teams have nothing to play for anymore, so the under is hard to take. As we progress in the NFL season, these teams that have nothing to play for, very hard to take the under. They start going for it on fourth downs, even in their own end. They start playing out of character. A team that runs the ball might throw it more and vice versa. So we can't take the under, and I can't take the over in this game because both of these teams are struggling to score. Bottom line here, guys, I'm not touching this game. If you want a bet on this game, find someone else to give it to you because this is a horrible spot for both teams. I think it's going to be a horrible spot for both teams moving forward, frankly. Jacksonville against Tennessee. Okay. Here we have Jacksonville at plus 3.5, a total of 40. And as we get further into the year, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more, teams that have nothing to play for, it just becomes much harder to handicap these teams. Do these teams care? Does Jacksonville care what happens on Sunday? I don't know. Nobody's called and told me. Does Tennessee care what happens on Sunday? I don't know. I think their coach is okay. It's his first year. He's probably going to make it through. I don't think Doug Peterson's going to make it through, but that ship has already sailed, whether they win or lose. This is one of those games, again, we're just going to stay the hell away from, but we're not going to stay away from the Vegas Tampa Bay game. Let's get right into that. Las Vegas Raiders plus 7 versus Tampa Bay. The total here is 45. And the Raiders gave everything they had to beat the Chiefs last week, and that is important to know moving forward. Why? Because as we spoke about, we're trying to figure out whether teams care or don't care moving forward. I think we found out one thing. The Raiders care. I think Antonio Pierce is playing for his job. I think Aiden O'Donnell is playing for his starting career. And I think we're going to get a maximum effort out of this Raiders team. With that said, Tampa Bay blew it last week, and lucky for them, they still got out of Dodge with a win. If you guys follow me on a regular basis, you know one thing. I love playing on teams who had a terrible game but won. I love playing on them the following week. I spoke to a lot of professional athletes about this, and they say to me, it's when the coaches do their best work. In other words, Tampa Bay know they played bad, and they know they have to right the ship, but they also don't have that sinking, depressing feeling of having that loss hold them back. So we have a happy Tampa Bay team, a Tampa Bay team that's now tied with Atlanta at the top of their division, but yet a Tampa Bay team that recognizes that they did not play their best and have to play better. This is a perfect spot to bet on the Bucks, and it's also a perfect spot to bet against the Raiders. Tampa Bay is coming off a horrible performance, and they know that. And they're going to focus on riding the ship. They've won their last 2 games, are getting healthier, and must be feeling good about themselves emotionally. They've now tied the Falcons, and I think they're ready to put down a little bit of a run. As for the Raiders, they brought it all last week. They brought everything they had but the kitchen sink. They were playing against their biggest rival. They wanted to win that game very badly. This is a letdown spot for them. They are 2-10 on the year. It just doesn't matter anymore. I think it's going to be very hard for the Raiders to get up for this game. Yeah, we're laying the points here, guys. -7. Who cares? I think this game will be a total blowout. Take Tampa Bay minus the points. Cleveland +7 going into Pittsburgh. The total was 41.5 here, guys. Now it's 44, and I totally get it. It's exactly what I would do. These two teams just played each other, and the Browns won that game 24-19. That was 2 weeks ago. I do think Pittsburgh wins this game, but this is way too many points for a division game and against a team that is finally playing better. Well, at least playing better offensively. And that's the key to this handicap. I've told you guys all season the Browns defense is not very good. And they just let Denver put up 41 points on them. Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago put up 19. New Orleans, who could barely score if you spotted them as SCO and an R, put up 35. And the LA Chargers 27. And I can go on and on and on. The least amount of points scored on the shitty Cleveland D is 19. And that's in the last 10 games. And that was the Steelers. We have to assume Pittsburgh is going to get more than 20 in this game, and I think they will at home. And plus, man, they just put up 44 on Cincinnati. And under Russell Wilson, this is a whole new Pittsburgh team, and a team that's throwing the ball and throwing deep, stretching the field, opening up lanes for their running back and slot wide receivers. So, yeah, I think Pittsburgh is going to get more than 20. I also think Cleveland's going to get more than 20. And if they don't get more than 20, Jameson's going to find ways to get 2 or 3 extra touchdowns for Pittsburgh. So either way, this game is going over the total, regardless of the line move, which is now 44. Take Cleveland and Pittsburgh over the total. Now we turn our attention to Carolina, +12.5 against Philadelphia, and a total here of 46. Let me tell you right off the bat, this is a horrible, horrible spot for Philly. This Philly team just literally played the best game of their season. They went into Baltimore, and they played outstanding both offensively and defensively. Really, really hard to do that 2 games in a row. This Philly team is playing great. They've won 8 in a row. They're 10-2 on the season, and they're 8-4 ATS. But now they're playing a Panthers team that is finally starting to resemble a team with players who actually get paid to play this sport. The Panthers are 2-2 in their last 4, but more importantly, have been within 3 points in all 4 of those games. And some of them were against really good competition. Kansas City Chiefs. Anyway, I can't bet Carolina here. Even though it is the right spot, they're just too inconsistent. There's no reason they come out and they could play amazing. They could lay an egg. I can't put my hard-earned money on teams that are that inconsistent. And Philly, even inside of their 8-game win streak, have had some bad football and some incredible football. Regretfully, we're going to find another game to bet on. And speaking of that game, let's go. New York Jets at Miami. Before we take apart that game, a quick reminder, guys, got a 5% playing college football on Saturday. First college football total of the season. Do not miss this play. And I'd rather, instead of you buying that play, buy my entire bowl package, $149. You can get it at wt.buzz/LP. I'm the second most profitable handicapper in the last 2 years of college football bowls, and I'm coming into the bowl season on freaking fire. 3-1 on Saturday, 7-3 run, 19-9 run. And I've been over 60% since October. So guys, let's go. You and me, let's win in the college football bowl season together. Grab that package, $149. Okay, Jets in Miami. F both those stinking teams. I was on Miami and the Jets last week and both stunk. Okay, well, the Jets didn't actually stink, but they totally gave the game away. And Aaron Rodgers, he is a shell of himself. So what do we do in this game? Bottom line, I'm taking Miami here. This Miami team is now going to be playing at home. They're going to be playing in the warm weather against a team that not only stinks, but a team that is going through some terrible emotions right now. The locker room in New York is a total mess. Everybody hates each other. No one is taking blame. The coach will be fired. The QB will retire. And half this team will not be in green this past season. On top of everything, no one wants to play for that douchewad Aaron Rodgers. Nobody wanted to play with him in Green Bay, and nobody wants to play with him in New York. This idiot got up in a presser after he lost the game and blamed everybody else. Well, yeah, we're not taking the New York Jets, and we're not going to take them again this year. At some point, as the season winds down, we need to figure out which team cares, which team doesn't. I'll tell you two things. Miami cares. I'll tell you another thing. The New York Jets don't. This is going to be a horrible beatdown for the team in green. We're taking the Dolphins -6. Take them on the alternate line, guys. I think they win this game by 20. Seattle, Arizona. Huge freaking matchup here. Seattle is +2.5. The total is 45. We played against the Hawks last week, and although they played terribly, and they really did play terribly, the Jets did us no favors. This is one hell of an important game for both these teams. Bottom line is, if Seattle beats Arizona here, Arizona is not going to win this division. They might sneak into a wild card spot, but the division for Arizona is on the line in this game. These two literally played 2 weeks ago. Seattle won 16-6. With that said, Seattle's only touchdown was on a pick six. I will say this. I don't believe either of these teams are that great. And frankly, both of these teams will be easy outs when the playoffs start. But I do think Arizona wins this game. They went into Minnesota and they dominated that football game. They held the ball in Minnesota for 36 minutes. They outgained Minnesota in every single category. Minnesota needed a miracle to get that win. Same thing happened when they went into Miami a few weeks ago. This Arizona team is playing good football, and they have been all year. Now, I know we could say the same thing about Seattle, but when I watch the Seattle team play, it's like they're just totally out of sync. Geno is struggling. They can't run the ball. They're totally inconsistent. It really feels to me like a lot of their wins are fluky. With that as well, the Arizona defense is way better than Seattle defense. Like, I'm talking way better. This Arizona defense has allowed 54 points in their last 4 games. That's under 2 touchdowns a game. And the only touchdown we spoke about, the only touchdown Seattle scored out of all of that was off of a pick six, 69-yard interception. I also love betting teams who lost the first game. So you have Pittsburgh, who lost to Cleveland. Now they're playing Cleveland. I think Pittsburgh wins, but the line is too high. We have Arizona, who lost to Seattle 2 weeks ago. I think Arizona wins, but the line is the right line to bet here. With that said, I think I might end up on the money line here. I like Arizona -2.5, but I also like -150 on the money line. I do think this will be a close game, but I'm pretty certain Arizona's going to get the win. So take Arizona -150 on the money line. Now the Buffalo Bills, -4.5 against the Rams. 49 is the total. Who the hell is going to bet against the Bills right now? Not this guy. Last week, we bet against the Rams, and we were wrong, but this team did not play well at all, and they needed a big fourth quarter to beat the Saints. The bottom line is this is not a great Rams football team. They are 20th in the league in scoring points and 21st in preventing points. So just take a step back and think about that. They are 20th in the league in scoring. Buffalo's number 2. They are 21st in the league in preventing points. Buffalo is number 7. Normally, this would not be a good spot for Buffalo as they are flying across the country and playing outside of the conference. But this is a veteran Buffalo team with Super Bowl aspirations, and they need home field advantage. The Bills might lose. They might lose another game this season. But I will tell you one thing. They won't lose it for a lack of trying. There will be no letdown spots for the Buffalo Bills. These teams simply do not compare in any category. Plus, the Bills love to whoop teams. No team has won by more margin than the Bills. They are constantly beating teams by 20 or more points. They just destroyed San Fran. They beat Kansas City by 9. They went into Indy and won by 10. They went into Seattle and won by 21. And on and on and on. -4.5 should not scare anyone when it comes to the Buffalo Bills. We are not going to overthink this. We are taking Buffalo -4.5. Chicago, San Francisco, Chicago +4. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm going to pass on this game. New coach in Bears land, and that should be huge as the team hated Eberkrapper. With that said, San Fran is playing for their season after a horrible loss against the Bills. The bottom line here is this is a great spot to bet San Fran after humiliating loss against the Bills. It's also a great spot to bet the Bears after they finally got rid of that piece of poop that they had as a coach and the team hated on him, and they're going to give it their all for their new coach. So given that it's a great spot to bet both teams, that negates itself. We move on. LA Chargers, Kansas City. I love this game. We told you guys last week that this KC team was not going to cover and could lose the game outright, and they almost did. This team is winning games somehow, some way, but they just honestly are not playing great football. Kansas City offense is in the middle of the pack in almost every category. Yet again, they do seem to be getting the job done. Even their vaunted defense has been suspect of late. They allowed the Raiders to not only put up 17 points on them, which is not a lot of points, but they allowed the Raiders to march down the field at the end of the game to set up a game-winning field goal, only to get bailed out by a stupid snap. Furthermore, this Kansas City team has been hurting on defense for the last few games. With that said, this Chargers team might be sneaky good and a scary out. They've won 5 of their last 6, with their only loss being against the Ravens. And I watched that Ravens game. 2 drop passes, in the basket passes, were dropped by the LA Chargers wide receiver. And there were 2 horrific referee decisions. That was literally the reason they lost that game. They played outstanding, even in their one defeat. In their last 6 games, they played outstanding against the Raiders. If the Chargers are getting more than a field goal, literally, if the Chargers are getting more than a field goal against any team not named the Lions or not in Buffalo, I'm taking them, man. I am taking them. So you know where I'm going in this game. Something has to give in Kansas City. Their luck has to run out, and the Chargers are going to bring their very best. I think the Chargers win this game. I'm telling you right now. But even worst case scenario, they are losing this game by 10 with 2 minutes to go, and Herbert has the ball in his hands. I still feel good about our chances of covering 4. Take the LA Chargers +4 against Kansas City. That's it for the NFL Presidential Address for Week 14. What a pleasure doing this for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button and like this show and like this channel. Subscribe to this channel and make comments. I read them all. Let me know your 3 favorite bets for this week as well. Lots of love, everybody, and we'll see you next week.